Next question says, which best explains how contractionary policies can hamper economic growth? 1 says they increase demand, 2 says they help increase consumer debt, 3 says they reduce disposable income, and 4 says they reduce consumer confidence. And so, what is contractionary economy? This is the aggregate demand, dynamic aggregate demand, aggregate supply model. So, let me draw this so it intersects. Yeah, there we go. This is supply, demand. This is short-run supply. This is long-run supply, right? So this is a perfectly at equilibrium model for an aggregate demand, aggregate supply dynamic model. And what happens with contractionary policies, we would use it in a circumstance where we find D to be at D1. And so instead of having long-run supply of potential GDP being equal to the current GDP, we see that our current GDP is higher, right, than the long-run potential GDP. And so essentially the economy is producing too much. It's going to burn itself out, right? So what we want to see is that the economy is producing too much. It's leading to inflation. We want to decrease this. And how do we do that? We want contractionary policy. And the effect we want is basically return D1 to D. We want to bring it back here. And that would give us back to the long-run potential GDP that we see at the intersection of all three of the curves: short-run, long-run, and aggregate demand, right? And how do we do that? Well, there's several ways. We could increase taxes, right? If you increase taxes, then people have less money and they're going to spend less and consumption goes down, so the aggregate demand goes down. We could decrease government spending. We know that government spending leads to a multiplier effect where government spends $1 million, the $1 million goes into the private sector turns around and spends half of that, and so there's an amplifying effect there. If we decrease the amount that the government spends, then there's less kind of an injection of money into the economy, so that's another way. We can engage in monetary policy where we essentially decrease the interest rate, increase the interest rate. Decrease the interest rate. We decrease the interest rate so that there's going to be less borrowing for investment, and so overall demand is going to go down because people are not investing as much. And so all these ways are ways in which we would be trying to decrease or contract the economy. But they are all similar in the one thing, which is reduce disposable income. We want there to be less money in their that they can spend, and so that's how contractionary policy is going to hamper that growth. So C is going to be the best answer here. They reduce disposable income. Let's take a look at the previous year's answer. They also said 3, and they said that contractionary policy refers to the set of discretionary actions undertaken by the government or the monetary authority of an economy to reduce the level of aggregate demand and prevent the economy from overheating. A contractionary policy can either be fiscal or monetary. The government decreases its spending or increases the tax rate under contractionary fiscal policy, whereas the level of credit creation is reduced through open market sales or an increase in reserve requirements, federal funds rates, or discount rates under the contractionary monetary policy. When authorities go with a contractionary policy, the level of money that is available for consumers decreases, and the reduction in the money supply affects the level of aggregate demand adversely, causing the aggregate demand curve to shift to the left, right here, which leads to a reduction in the price level rate. Nothing really much to add there, and that's exactly what we are seeing when we do contractionary policy. Next question.